Hotel staff of Reddit, what is the creepiest, weirdest, most unexplained event that you've experienced on the job? Hahaha, I'm laughing just thinking about it. I'm a setup manager at a hotel for big events. I was double checking all the rooms before I went home for the day, and I went into one of the event rooms and flicked on the lights. I shit you not, there was a grown-ass naked man in the dark. He flinched when I turned the lights on and it scared me. I sorta yelled, "What are you doing?" Turns out he was swimming and needed a place to change. Instead of just going to his room like a normal person would, he chose a dark event room. My dad used to work in a hotel. A few years ago, he hears a scream from a maid as she's cleaning one of the rooms. He runs in, and there's a giant python just chilling in the bathtub. This thing is apparently like 4 feet long. They tried to track down the couple who had just checked out of the room, but the number they'd given the front desk wasn't working. Eventually animal control showed up and took the snake. That poor maid was terrified to clean the bathrooms for a while. Edit. Some have pointed out that using the word giant to describe a 4-foot-long snake is a bit of a hyperbole. Maybe so, but 4 feet of python is definitely a huge shock when you're not expecting it. When I got a call to let a locked out guest into their room and came across a disheveled looking Kid Rock waiting outside of his suite wearing a gold thong. That actually sounds like Kid Rock. Not a hotel staff, but a customer who likes to do funny pranks at hotels I stayed at for work. My favorite one was leaving up shrines for Jeff Goldblum. Candles, pictures, and all, when I was checking out. After doing this at one hotel a few times, the next time I got called out for work and had a hotel booked, they must have recognized my name. Because when I got to me room there was a framed picture of Jeff Goldblum with candles around it. Now that's what I call good customer service. I used to work in a small 20-room hotel built from an old mansion. So yeah, super creepy from the right perspective. I've heard old ghost stories, but never saw anything supernatural. Rather, the creepy stuff came from guests. One time, a lovely couple checked in. Although the guy was way older than the woman, they were friendly and enthusiastic. Later that night, about midnight, keep in mind that at that time, I am the hotel's only employee on staff. My switchboard tells me that their room had dialed 911. Since the guy was old, I was afraid he had a heart attack or something. I go to their room and knock on the door. It takes a while, but the door opens a bit. It is pitch black in their room. They closed the curtains and turned on no lights. I can't see the guy at all, but I hear the man's voice, and it's a cackled whisper out of a horror movie. Yes? Me. Excuse me, sir. Is everything okay? I saw that you dialed 911. Him. WHOORYOUUU? Me. I'm Nubosis. The guy who checked you in. You dialed 911. Is everything okay? Him. We don't. Giggles creepily. Have a phone. Me. Yes you do. And you called 911 from it. Is everything okay? Him. Oh. We have, giggles, meant to call 411. Giggles, sorry. He closes the door. I go back to my desk fearing something insane is going on. The next day, the two of them come downstairs. Super happy. Acting completely normal again. Shit was just weird. Now I'm pretty sure I have an explanation for the guy's behavior. Drew Gus. But damn if that wasn't creepy. Full stop. I've had several weird and scary moments happen while working in a hotel in DC. From suicides in luxury suites to terrorist claims. Working in the hospitality industry will definitely have you talking about something. One of the most scariest things I've witnessed firsthand is having the fireplace in our lobby explode almost right in front of my face. It all started in the morning when the lobby began to smell a little bit like gas. Usually it's never a problem because the restaurant is next to the front lobby. But after several complaints we decided to look for the source. Turns out the fireplace was causing the smell. It was gas starting fireplace. One of the new guys tried to adjust the temperature on it and instead the fireplace reacted unexpectedly and started a 3 feet flame. One of the bartenders tried to blow it out with the fire extinguisher, but turns out it was not the correct one to use and it caused the fireplace to explode and create an even bigger flame. All I remember is falling to the ground because of the explosion and the sprinklers went off. The entire front lobby and restaurant were flooded. I thought I was going to be able to leave work and they still made me stay my whole shift. Lesson learned from this incident. Not all fire extinguishers are used for the same purpose. There's like 4 different kinds to stop a specific fire. Now the creepiest request I ever got was to find an escort for a gentleman and giving a room to pornster. DC hotels for you. Not so much creepy. This event was just odd. I come into work one morning expecting to hear that nothing eventful had happened the night before because we only had something like 10 rooms rented. It was the middle of our dead season. I speak to the front desk agent to get my morning notes on the day and she tells me that a guest on the 2nd floor has called a few times about hearing a radio coming from somewhere. The FD agent sent the houseman to investigate it but he couldn't find anything. The guest calls again while I'm standing at the FD. So I head up there to investigate. The guest lets me in the room and I immediately hear the radio. It's not loud but it's just loud enough to be annoying. I check everywhere in the room and don't find the source of the noise. I check my in-house list and there are no guests in any of the rooms beside, above or below them. But we check the vacant rooms just to be sure someone hadn't left something on during a previous stay. We didn't hear anything. We searched for the source of the noise for 30 minutes and I had to go tell the people in the room that I couldn't find it. They were really nice about it. They just wanted to find the source of it as well because at this point it was driving everyone insane that we couldn't find the source. They checked out later that day and I went back to the room and still heard the noise. We never did find it and we never had a complaint about it again. The whole thing was just weird. We like to talk about which hotels are the most haunted. There is one that is notoriously more haunted than the others. One story that sticks out is a friend was plugging in an Xbox in a creepy ballroom. The Kinect discovered him as player 1. And then discovered a player 2 standing next to him. There was no one else in the room. But the player 2 arrow on the screen was right next to him. Then the player 2 arrow just walked away and out of view of the screen. Okay. Super creepy story time. I work at a mid-tier popular hotel in the south on the 3 to 11 PM shift. About a month and a half ago I get a call from an older man working at the Haynes company, trying to check on a reservation. Apparently the reservation didn't pop up in our system. So he then starts asking me if it's okay if guests who stay at the hotel can get packages shipped to them during their stay. Sure, whatever. We will sign for them too. He then slides in a worst case scenario, you guys will end up with 300 pairs of stockings. That was it. Or so I thought. Proceed to 2 weeks ago around 9 PM. The phone rings and it's the Haynes man again. But this time he sounds a little off. Super soft voice with almost shallow breathing. He's checking on the reservation again, which still isn't there. As I try to offer to make the reservation, he cuts me off to tell me that the package of stockings will be coming in. In then even more shallow breathing. In the creepiest softest voice asks, "Do you wear thigh highs?" I still can't shake the tone of voice. I hung up so quick and locked the doors. My friend and I landed jobs in the same hotel. We both worked the night shifts on weekends. And we were the only employees there. He was reception. I was the bellboy plus security plus gopher. We were bored one night so I dragged the helium tank, 4 balloons I guess. Maybe for weddings, from storage and in the admin offices behind the front desk. And we proceeded to answer telephone calls with high-pitched voices all night long. Not sure if it's creepy, but I'm sure it was weird for the callers. I cleaned hotels at the end of each week at a family camp one summer. They had large communal kitchens on each floor so people could bring their own food if they wanted. At the end of one camp week, someone left a full, unopened, large jar of Nutella in the kitchen. That day, I gained a brand new free jar of Nutella and a very heavy sense of confusion for why someone would do such a thing. My uncle used to work in a hotel as a pool cleaner. He told me that he would find a turd in the pool almost every day and they weren't required to change the water. Don't use pools at hotels. I worked at a hotel that was owned by a college. The rooms inside the courtyard were rented out to customers, but the outer rooms were meant for long-term stays and college kids. There was an old man that lived in the very front of the hotel, had for decades. He was a germaphobe and was terrified of spiders. He would come down at night and talk to me. For some reason I was super interested in everything he had to say. Mostly cause it was boring and slow at night, but he knew a lot of history about the city we live in. One night he came down to the lobby and was in tears. I asked him what was wrong and he told me that there was a spider in his room. Could I get rid of it for him? Normally, the only people allowed in his room were the housekeepers when they changed his sheets, so I had no idea what I was in store for. I opened the door to see that every inch of his room was covered in old newspapers. He had plastered them on the walls, the tables, the sinks, chairs, everywhere. There were stacks and stacks of newspapers everywhere. I found the spider at the bathroom and killed it. Just as I was about to flush, he was like, no. I asked him what is wrong. He didn't want me to flush it because it might crawl back in. So I took this mushed spider in a tissue and out the room. He was a sweet old man, but it just really creeped me out seeing his room covered in newspapers. I'm a housekeeper. I've walked in on a few people having sex or being naked. But they are usually pretty embarrassed. But this one time when I had just started, I knocked on the door to clean this guy's room. He opened it just a peek so he could see who was at the door. I thought, he must be in a towel or something. He's gonna tell me to come back later or go away. Well, he did. Once he saw it was me. But not before flinging the door open the rest of the way, revealing he was butt-ass naked. And that's how I learned what ginger pubes look like. Still don't know what was running through the dude's mind. But he didn't have a boner, so I'm gonna rule that out. Not hotel staff. So sorry. But I have a relevant story. I was staying at a hotel and was walking through the halls at the same time as the cleaning woman was going room to change sheets and such. As I'm walking past her, she's entering a room. And suddenly I hear this kind of surprised yell from her and foot shuffling. My head whips around just in time to see some guy with his big dick in his hand before the door was slammed and the cleaning lady moved on. She noticed that I saw what happened and just shook her head and said something about how she hates when that happens. Not sure how creepy that is, but it sounds like it's not such a rare occurrence at some places. There's probably a few dozen guys with an exhibition fetish that just go from hotel to hotel showing their junk to hotel staff for sheets and giggles. Definitely was creepy and weird to me. Though I can understand having that fetish. Just seems mean to do that to unsuspecting cleaning staff. My mom worked in a hotel. The most ducked up thing she ever witnessed, a child's chopped up body in a suitcase. Called the police. They arrested the guy. Not a mention in the media about it. That last part she found almost as disturbing as a dead child. I guess it doesn't fit the unexplained category, but it was very weird that the maid left the body in a suitcase so nonchalantly. I was a hotel manager at a larger hotel. Someone dialed 911 from a room. It tells us which room it is. So we go to the room to make sure things are fine. 7/10 they were trying to dial room 911. 2/10 it is a kid playing on the phone. I go up and our security guard was doing CPR on a naked old guy and his wife was crying. The paramedics show up and ask for her to leave the room. I get the woman out of the room and try to talk with her to help her out. The paramedics failed to revive the guy and he passed away. So the police show up and start to talk with her and ask her what was going on for their report. She whispered something into the officer's ear and he said okay and wrote it down. I never saw what he wrote or heard what she said. I still have no idea to this day what exactly had happened. Going on 20 years ago, I worked at a Holiday Inn. There were always a number of people that actually lived there. paying for rooms by the month. You'd see them at the bar. Hell. One guy was so trusted we gave him keys to the kitchen. He'd go in there late at night and make the front desk sandwiches. One of these dudes was walking around one night with a paper lunch sack full of $100 bills. He was going up to everybody he could, at the bar, in the lobby, and gave out his handus. People actually complained about it because it freaked them out a bit. Not me. I took 100. The next morning he was found dead in his room by the cleaning crew. Suicide. Not a hotel. But I work maintenance for a vacation cabin rental company. One night, I get a call from a guest that she has mice in her cabin. So I grab some traps and bait and head up. She was there by herself. Little strange. But I made some small talk as I set up the traps. She said her husband worked a couple states away and was supposed to meet her there later that night. The next morning they were due to check out at 11. Noon comes and they're still in, so the front desk tries calling. No answer. 12:30 comes and housekeeping needs to get in to clean as it was a turnover. So front desk tells them to knock and go in case the guest is asleep or something. She had attempted suicide by overdosing on pills when her husband never showed. She was unconscious but still had a pulse, so she left by ambulance. I think she ended up living. Thinking back afterwards, I remembered thinking it was a little odd how many prescription pill bottles she had in plain sight the night I was in there. We also have one lodge that sleeps 24 people. That's really creepy when you're alone. I've had multiple people, some who have never worked or stayed there, tell me matter of factly that a man hung himself in the upstairs bedroom. I'm not sure, but I hate being there by myself. I've heard footsteps on multiple occasions. Had doors shut or open themselves while I was in there with no draft. Seen shadows out of the corner of my eye, etc. Just, a guy died partying in the hotel. Then came back the same night to continue partying. I worked as a front desk agent at a Marriott for years. During the winter season we would have high schools that would book out the entire hotel for a big ski trip to a nearby resort. It would be complete chaos. All 140 rooms would have 4 high school seniors each from about 7 different schools. Needless to say, the entire hotel would be a weekend-long party. Everything you could imagine would happen on the weekends. From explosive diarrhea in the hallways, to people riding patio furniture down the water slide. Some kids punched holes in the wall connecting their room for their own personal doorway. Others cut open their mattress to hide Drew Gus and boots, supposedly a dry event lol. There was even one kid who had his thumb cut off by a slamming room door. Ouch. During these events we would have local police stationed at the hotel entrances in attempt to control the ridiculousness. The instance that stands out in my mind, however, is the night a young man OD'd on the first floor hallway. He was unconscious on the floor, and when paramedics arrived, he had no pulse and needed to be defibrillated back to life. He was taken to the hospital for a few hours, but somehow was allowed to leave. He came back that same night to his friends all in the lobby and shouted "WHOS ready for shots." The guy ducking died and came back a few hours later to party. Unbelievable.